I close the other 12 windows, that'll help.
All right, good evening. It is 7 p.m. on Thursday, April 25th, 2024. I'm calling the Lunenburg Finance Committee meeting to order. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access channel and on Facebook Live on the Public Access Facebook page, and will be uploaded to the Lunenburg Access YouTube channel after the meeting. This meeting will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in any specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. The following information is provided for members of the public that would like to participate to the meeting remotely. To participate remotely from a computer, please use the link attached to the agenda, which can be found on the town website. From a telephone, dial the toll-free number 888-475-4499 and enter webinar ID 814-1681-8974. This agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by open meeting law. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Are there any announcements from the committee this evening? All right. Any public comment from the public? Oh, guess what I forgot to do?
Recording in progress.
At least we didn't miss anything too important. Okay. I'll ask again, is there any public comment from the public? Seeing none, any public comment from the committee this evening? Excellent, we're back to our 1-hour meetings. All right. Town manager is, I believe she's still in her office. We're not here yet, so we'll skip that over for now.
She's gone remote tonight,
Is she
last
on?
I heard.
Oh, there she is. Ms. Lemieux, do we have a town manager report for the evening?
If I can give that a little later.
Absolutely.
I'll try.
More than welcome to.
Like,
Move on. Let's move on to the finance director. I'm happy to pull up to go right over it with the financial report if you want to combine them together, or if there's anything separate that you have for the director report, please let me know. We can go forward with that.
Thank you. It's just a financial report this evening.
Okay. If you'd like, I can share that and we can go through that now.
All right. So what you have presented for tonight is a quarterly financial report going through the first two quarters, ending December 31st, 2023. Tonight we'll go over the revenues, total fiscal year comparison, tax levy, local receipts, state aid, and also the expenditure piece, which is totals fiscal year by comparison, and omnibus budget comparison. So, excuse me, I have to move you to a different screen so I can see it. So totals for fiscal year, our estimated revenues were at 49.2%. Total revenue collected through quarter two is $23,499,570. We're right about at target as far as revenue is concerned. There's looks like it's 6.09% less than collected last year, but there are various reasons. For example, 40S funds will not be received this year, so that's $342,000, but due to conservative budgeting, we have enough local receipts to offset. Next slide. Let's see. So total estimated tax levy for FY24 net of overlay is $31,493.800. $31,493,890. We're at 46.04% of that collected, and we're pretty close to target. Again, those are estimated numbers. The actual tax billing just went out to quarter four, so this is all estimated numbers as of this time. Next slide. Total local receipts collected were 44.04% of annual estimate, or $1,417,065. And you'll notice we're pretty much on target. Some of this is due to timing as well, depending on when the revenue is collected and received, but I'm not seeing any areas of concern. Next slide. Here on this slide, you'll see some comparative numbers compared to last year. Again, for example, you'll see motor vehicle excise tax. This is $62,000 difference compared to the same time last year. However, most of the excise tax revenue is collected at the end of through quarter four of the fiscal year. The miscellaneous non-recurring category makes up of several different items. That's supplemental tax, new construction, medical records, mass rehab, sale of new town equipment, net metering credits, and other miscellaneous revenue. Next slide. State aid collected for 48.28% of annual estimate, or $5,139,824. You'll see below the summary of categories, and down at the bottom, you'll see the 40S funds. Estimated revenue was $342,000, but that's not going to be collected this year. The Lunenburg just doesn't qualify. Total expenditures through the first two quarters were $21,743,068, or 45.55% of the budget. We have 54.45% remaining, pretty much on target. Again, I don't see any areas of concern or overspending. There's, we had conservative budget process, so I don't anticipate any gaps or overages for this current fiscal year. So on here in the detail, you'll see there's been a drop off in maturing debt as debt gets paid off. It's 14% less than last year, and the total general government unclassified, these categories are 56.31%, I guess. Again, we're essentially basically on target for being midway through the year. Next slide. Total general government, total percent use 41.68%, and central purchasing 34.56%. Again, no areas of concern for me going through these numbers. Here you see the categories of the protection, both police, fire, radio watch, and other categories. So the total spent through the first half is 48.03%. Again, pretty much on target. I don't see any areas of concern here either. For the health and sanitation, 75.94% used this year, and also total DPW is 38.64%. We did not receive a lot of snowstorms. That's a big impact there. So you'll see the snow is big decrease from last year. But again, there's no highlighted targets that are concerned here either. Total facilities, 33.06%, solid waste, 35.81% spent, and council of aging, 43.5%, and veterans, 35.81%, of which total assistance through the first half of the year is 40.76%. Again, I'll say it again, there's no areas of concern. We're pretty much on target. Town is in a good position at this point. Total schools is 40.54%. And total library 39.97%. So there's a trend, and you'll see, excuse me, down at the bottom, total omnibus budget used for the first half was 40.99%. So we're still at a good pace going through the second half of the year. Going into the second half of the year, we have plenty of leeway in the budget. Yeah, we're at a good place. And here you'll see the state assessments, the tax title, the Vista Regional Retirement, any prior year adjustments, transfer to trust, special revenue funds, which there were not any, and the transfer to capital. There were a lot less capital projects this year compared to last year. So adding those into the previous omnibus total, overall, we're at 45.55% of the budget, so a little under half, but again, on no areas of concern, we're at a good place for being halfway through the year. That was pretty much it, I believe.
Thank you very much.
I have a question on, I guess, line 46, radio watch. Is 83% spent? It's the only thing in that area. Do you have to do some kind of transfer, or how do we deal with that?
I can answer that.
Go ahead, Heather.
Okay, that's the Neshoba Valley Dispatch assessment. So that's why that line gets mostly fully expended for those payments for the assessment.
Oh, okay, so it's not 25% on average per quarter, we just pay it all up, more upfront?
Correct.
Yeah, also, if you look at last year's, it was at 250,000, same time period. So
Okay.
it's only about 10,000 more this year, which is pretty much on track.
Okay, thank you.
I'll open up to the committee for other questions, comments?
Yeah, the only other thing that is concerning, and it was brought up at the select board meeting Tuesday night, is that the incoming revenue comparison 24 to 23 is trending downward, and especially excise tax bothers me because that's always run way ahead of estimates. So we are seeing some softening, I believe, in revenues. And just because excise taxes, the bills don't get paid till quarter 4, 3 or 4, I can't remember which, so they're not captured here. They weren't captured in this report last year either. So if we're comparing quarter 2 to quarter 2, we are behind on a number of categories on incoming revenue. Smart growth has nothing to do with this. Smart growth hits the balance sheet later in the year. So there is some indication there that revenues anyway are on the downside. The only thing really offsetting is the fact that we haven't spent quite as much money in the first 2 quarters of this year, and I don't know how to explain that at this point.
Yeah, so I will say the motor vehicle tax revenue, the beginning, when I was doing the comparisons, some of that revenue is, we received in July is actually FY23 revenue. So some of the numbers obscured. I can get the committee the detail on that.
Yeah, I understand that some of our revenues have been skewed severely with all the issues that we've had over the past year, so you got to qualify the offsets, one way or another, line by line. But, especially like I said, the excise tax, that's a raw number with nothing out of the ordinary should be affecting it that I'm aware of. And that's been a source of free cash and availability of money to close out the end of the year. So it'll be interesting to see what quarter 3 looks like.
Any other questions or comments? No. I actually don't have any either. This is fantastic, so I look forward to having these on a quarterly basis, hopefully. Or at least a biannular basis. It's a really good snapshot as to where we are.
I have a question.
Oh, go right ahead.
Yeah, when do we see quarter 3? Because aren't we 10 months into the fiscal year?
Quarter 3 ended March 31st, so we're actually in the process of closing quarter 3. There's been a lot of issues with Munis as of late, so that's been delaying that.
So when do you think we'll see quarter 3?
Within the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
I can't
this
give you
is
an
the end of
exact-
December, we're the end of April, fiscal year ends the end of June.
On a slightly off-subject question, and I don't need an answer now, but Ezekiel, if you could, two questions. Number one, we have a lot of money in different reserve accounts, special purpose stabilization account, stabilization account, and a number of other accounts with, I don't know what the total is, all of them. But I'm assuming that most of those are invested. At some point, could we see what they're, and I know we got a rundown from, I don't even know what those dates were, but they were, I think was the closeout of last year. But I'd like to know what they're earning and where does that interest go? Does it stay in those individual accounts, or does it go into a revenue account of interest income or something?
Absolutely, I can prepare something for the committee to present those special revenue items and go into detail what happens with the income.
Okay, I
Typically,
appreciate
the
it.
interest stays within those accounts to be used, depending on the account themselves, the specific master loan law, depending on the item.
Yeah, the reason I bring up the question, and I'm not saying, well, I might propose it, but the state is pulling the interest income from their multi-billion-dollar reserve to fund housing and some other things this year, which they've never done before. So I'm just wondering, for future reference, how much we're accumulating, and number one, can we move it out of those accounts, or do we already move it out of those accounts? A presentation would be great to answer my questions.
Can we include,
Absolutely.
can we include in this report the balance of all those various accounts?
Yeah, because you talking about the one we had before, Chris, that was end of last year's? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like that too, just to see where we've gone since then.
Yeah.
Sure, I can include those in the quarter three.
Thank you.
report.
Yep, great, thank you.
All right, thank you very much for the presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the revenue turnover policy draft. So I'll admit I hadn't seen this at all. I have not watched the select board meeting. I took a break from them.
Yeah,
So I saw it when the town manager sent it out to us.
I've had a chance to review it 2 or 3 times. The only question I have, is Heather still on or did we lose her?
I think she's back on now. Or in the process of getting back on.
Yeah,
There she is.
I'm here.
hi Heather.
Hi.
This is just a question, a rhetorical question more than anything, but wouldn't it be more appropriate to call this a revenue and expense turnover policy? Because within the policies that I've seen reviewed over the past week or so, there's incoming money and outgoing money that's been addressed.
So this is just about collection of revenue. It's not about expenditure of those funds. So it's how we handle incoming receipts, either through fees, checks, cash, credit card payments.
Okay,
It's
so,
not about the expenditure of those funds. It's
And
how
how-
those funds are handled by staff when they receive them and how they're turned over to the treasurer collector.
okay, now, what are refunds considered in this set of policies? Are they part
That
of a
would be-
revenue flow?
Yeah, that would not be covered under this policy.
So we're,
That would be an expenditure.
Yeah, excuse me, the expenditures would be more accounts payable process. not
Right.
a revenue.
okay, and have we got that process all documented too, or we're in the process of doing that also?
We're in the process of doing that. We're working with Division of Local Services to update our existing policies and add new financial policies,
Okay.
written policies.
Yeah, in regards to that, Heather, did we invite them to come help us with this overall process? Because I was told at a meeting a few weeks ago by Sean Cronin that my understanding was that the only way an audit from his department was initiated was with a vote from the Board of Selectmen requesting it.
This was done through Community Compact. And so we were awarded through the Community Compact program as one of the best practices to update the policies, and Division of Local Services is doing that.
Okay, now that you mentioned Community Compact, now I remember you talking about that in the past. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So would you like to at least give kind of an overview of the document at all, Ms. Lemieux?
Sure. So like I said, it basically is, the purpose is to safeguard the town's assets as incoming revenue, and how the monies and checks and all those are handled by staff as we're receiving them, and how the timeliness of them being turned over, how they're secured in between being turned over to the treasurer collector, and the checks and balances.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And this is something that Division of Local Services will definitely be including in their suggested policies, something we should have in place. It's also something that we identified as a high priority with a changeover and a lot of staff, because this, process is somewhat known between, amongst departments, but having something in writing is, safeguards the town as far as process.
The other question I had is, I know there's just a general list in there of departments and boards and commissions and so on that are affected by it, but something that caught my eye was that the schools are only mentioned for lunch money, and there was one other item, and I forget what it was. What about all the money coming in from field use, sales for athletic events, all that kind of stuff? We've had trouble in the past with misappropriation of funds in years past in those areas. Are they bound by this policy also?
Yeah, the list isn't comprehensive
Right.
of all the types of revenue that we receive. It identifies some to give an example for departments, but it's not comprehensive.
Right,
So
but
it does cover all revenue that's turned over.
Okay, but that doesn't answer my specific question, and that is that, other than the two items mentioned for schools, are the other sources of revenue coming through their hands also affected by this policy? Are they bound to it?
They would be.
Okay, that's all I needed. Thank you.
And all of those student activity accounts, that's part of our audit as well.
Right.
Are there any other questions on this?
You know, all I can say is the more we can document our procedures and have everybody on understanding what those are about the only protection we have against fraudulent handling of revenues coming in. I know you thoroughly understand that. The town of Lunenburg has been burnt a couple of times pretty severely over the past few decades. And the more policy we have in place and the more oversight and checks and balances we have, the less chance of that ever happening again.
I fully agree.
Does so take the library, for example, does the library, when they get book fines or they take in
There's no more book
activity,
fines.
I know, activity fees, I think you can voluntarily do it.
Can you?
Yeah.
No.
Activity fees and all that kind of stuff. So whatever the different, do you delineate that so that you have an understanding of how much we actually take in associated with all these kinds of fees?
As you may know that answer, and that's really a treasure collector question of how they're coded when they're turned over as far as account, but I believe they are, because it might go into the general category for of fines and fees. But
Heather.
there's a
you're-
backup
yeah.
record.
Heather,
Sorry?
you're correct. No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Heather, you're correct. There's a fees and fines category that goes into within the department.
So that would be tagged to the library, or that'd be fees and fines for everything, like connection fees or programming fees for the adult
It'd be-
activity center?
It would be, well, it goes into the general fund, but it's documented in the library. So it's not the library use, it's for general. But it's where it's documented.
Okay, so in theory, we could get a report of how much we get associated with all these various revenue types?
Yes.
That might be interesting to see.
Is there anything other than just kind of having essentially an earmark when it comes in to say that it is directed to the department or program? If it is something that's, to go one step further, once the money comes in, if it's tagged as it's for fines and fees or from the library, does that still make it to the library at some point, or is it?
No, most revenues, unless there's a dedicated pathway, say it's part of associated with a revolving fund, where a percentage of a permit fee, for instance, goes into that particular revolving fund and is associated with a direct cost, that's allowable cost for expenditure out of that account, all the remaining ones go into the general fund.
What
So
if it's-
there's definitely particular ones that have particular, are able to be spent for a particular purpose, but majority go into the general fund.
Okay, so for example, like a chapter 90 or chapter 70 is going to come in, and that's still going to go into the general fund, but then it's going to be distributed specifically to the DPW or to the schools at that point? Or is that still also?
I'm talking local receipts.
Right, this is only local receipts, this is nothing, okay,
Yeah. Chapter 90 is a reimbursement. That's a whole different process
okay.
from the state.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Oh, good.
Is this going to be posted on the website anytime soon? I assume it has to be approved by the select board and,
Yes, it would have to be approved by the select board, and then it would be posted.
okay.
I guess I do have one comment, that, the department, the table of the department and the revenue types, I know it says it's not comprehensive, but we should probably try to make it as comprehensive as possible. And
I
actually,
know, because I've seen draft ones from the local, Division of Local Services, they don't include a chart at all, as far as list of types of revenues. This is something that, in my previous job, we used a chart like this, just as a demonstration. It would be hard to capture, every single type of revenue. Would be, probably more of an appendix, I'd say, at that point, and then we might have to keep updating it with different types of revenues that happen as programming expands or things happen within departments.
I just think it would be, maybe it's not in this policy, but to have that comprehensive list of fees for the town would be a good thing to have written down. Kind of remind you that you not only do you pay taxes, but we get feed to death as well, on top of state taxes and federal taxes and state fees and federal fees. And if we're charging a fee, it shouldn't be too hard to put in a table that says we have the ability to do that fee.
It almost seems like there should be a catch-all paragraph in there after the list, and maybe a little further down, I'd have to read the whole thing again, that states basically, like a lot of Mass General Law and our bylaws and even our charter state, usually in the last sentence, and any other revenues coming to the town in any way. Then somebody can't go into this policy and say, oh, it's not listed here, so I don't have to follow these policies. It's that catch-all statement that always burns you when you think you've found a way to do something, and then you get that one sentence at the end that pulls everything in.
Kind of says it in the
does, yeah.
sentence before, but
All departments, boards, commissions are involved in the collection and receipt of town funds.
again, to me, it's just, if the town is going to fee you on something, we should at least have it written down somewhere that it's a fee that they can charge.
And, this is just feedback, that's what we've
Yeah.
been asked for, so
Yeah.
we're giving it.
Thank you.
Thank you for putting this together. I agree, it's good to have the additional, at least documented oversight for it, so we can reference back to it if we need to.
Welcome. That it was a joint effort with Ezekiel and Mylene, and it's good to get that input as well. And there will be more to come.
Excellent, thank you. Do you want to stay on for the town manager report real quick before we get to the consent calendar?
Sure. Let me pull up, I'm just gonna review my Tuesday report that I gave to the board. I know there were a couple revenue-related things. So we received additional funding for the Flat Hill Culvert project. That was one of the updates. We spoke with Mass DOT about possible additional funding, submitted a letter requesting additional 100,000, and we're notified that we would be receiving that additional 100,000. So we currently have 500,000 from a small bridge grant and a remaining $375,781 in the town appropriation for the Flat Hill Culvert project. That project was put out to bid in March, and our lowest responsible bidder came in at $830,230. So this additional 100,000 will pay for the higher than estimated construction cost, including contingency funding, project oversight from our engineering firm, utility relocation, and eminent domain expenses. So that was good news.
It is.
Yeah, Heather, there's still a $350,000 offset there in the numbers, correct? Do you have a hope that we are going to come up with the money to complete this project at the quoted price?
We have sufficient funding. So we have the 500,000 small bridge grant. We have $375,781 in town funds.
Yep.
And then we just got the additional 100,000.
Okay, I'm sorry, for some reason I missed the 500 in your original list.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't
makes
have
a
been
bit of a
able to,
difference.
yeah, we definitely wouldn't have been able to award
Yep.
the bid. So,
Do we have a timeline for when this is starting now? Is it ideally this summer?
so the culvert
Fall.
itself will have to be ordered, and that is the longest lead time. And that will likely be early fall by the time that is received. So it's gonna, but the whole project probably will go throughout fiscal '25.
Okay.
Is that a two-piece culvert, so they're gonna be able to do one side and leave a lane open, or is it gonna be a total shutdown during the
I think
excavation?
that the bridge will be shut down
Yeah, okay.
during that time.
Yep.
And so the DPW director has been communicating for a while now with police and fire and everyone, so making sure that we have plans in place, and the utility companies, that everybody knows that, and alternative routes.
Does schools know that so that the busing can be properly planned out?
I believe so, yes, and I know Bill talks to the superintendent on a regular basis.
Good reason for consolidation.
And
Timing's
we
never good. I'm sorry.
Notification that we received what's called rural roads funding. And this is a program that was part of a fiscal '24 transportation bond bill for municipal road and bridge repair construction. This program was created for communities through a formula that was for rural communities, particularly with the apportionments based 20% on road miles, 20% on population, and 60% on whether a community is considered rural. And our allotment for that is $21,979, and that gets added to our Chapter 90 amount. So again, that would be a reimbursable amount. So not a large sum, but it adds to our,
Partially because we've grown too much. What was the population limit? 10,000, I think, was the
yes,
the sweet point.
10,000. And population density of fewer than 500 people per square mile.
Right.
Aren't we still under that? I thought we were like in the very high 400s by the last
Or-
census, by the population density, if I remember the last census. It was like 494 or something.
Then we just made the cutoff.
Okay,
So it's density of fewer than 500
okay.
people per. That's probably why our apportionment is so small. We have 2 bids that are being put out, the landscaping for town facilities and parks, and that one will be due June 11th. And we're rebidding the removal of the solid waste at the Woodruff property, which is 104 Fairview Road. And those bids would be June 12th. Just this is eventually, and does impact the budget significantly. TCP, we had another major leak on April 12th that impacted the public access studio. And so since we've had ongoing leaks in that area and concern about potential damage to the public access equipment, the facilities director and I agreed we would move the studio to the back wing of the building where there haven't been any leaks. So he is working on getting all the necessary electricity, cabling, sealing the floors before that they move the studio to that location. So this will occur after town meeting.
Heather, don't we have money appropriated to put that roof in that section? Are we not doing that?
We do have, from the last town meeting, there was money appropriated for that purpose. We're
So-
not at a point,
So we're.
not at a point where it could be put out to bid.
Thought that was
yet.
put on hold. I thought that was
I'm
put on
sorry?
hold,
What was put on hold?
doing the roof.
Not officially.
Yeah, I think those were just comments made at a couple of committee meetings, not necessarily here.
That's
Yeah.
what Chris Ruth told us during the budget
Yeah.
presentation.
Oh, okay, I missed that. Yeah, I just, we're spending money to move back now where we've got money tied up and appropriated to deal with the issue that was identified as a critical need at November, was it?
Yes.
Special town
Yes.
meeting? Okay,
Yeah, I think
and
it's
I
the-
agree, it's, that's a relatively short period of time, but when we have an emergency, what I consider an emergency repair needed to stabilize entities operating in a section of a building, it just seems like that would be expedited if we're gonna do it.
takes-
If we're not gonna
Yeah,
do
it
it.
takes significant time to put a bid of that caliber together. All the specifications on how that work is done need to be fully vetted before it goes out to bid. But I do think it is the opinion of the facilities director. There's no official halt on that, but I think it's his opinion that as we're seeing more things fail at that building, that it's parts of that building are not able to be recovered.
Well, if we wait long enough, it'll demolish itself, and then we're gonna have caught in a real pickle, and you made light of it, select board meeting, that, we gotta start thinking about what we're gonna do with the entities that are in that building. I mean, and the fact that we have, I believe, critical records stored in that building. We have no real plan to sort through those and relocate them, other than putting them into storage trailers or whatever. there's an awful lot of work to abandon that building if that roof does continue to deteriorate one room at a time or one wing at a time. Yeah, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
It's just too bad we haven't taken it down and almost complete could be within the next 6 to 12 months, brand new building could have been there. And
Yeah, I
I'll
think
never
we
let
all
go of that.
I think we all have been part of discussions and
Yep.
years' worth of meetings on what the plan is for our town buildings.
Yeah, well, we're two years down the road from the committee I was on, and we still have no answers. But, and I'm not saying that's your fault, it's the town's fault in general.
So we are we're definitely at crossroads of what we need to do. And it's becoming more and more critical. And we're obviously, busting at the seams with staff already and where to put people,
Right.
what programs. And our only space available is buildings like TCP.
So does this move them into the back wing or just further down the same wing?
The back wing.
Back wing. Okay, I had the impression, and again, I haven't walked that building for a very long time. I thought the school programs had that entire wing tied up.
No, the back wing, adjacent to the dirt parking lot, that part of the wing.
Okay.
So if we're getting sort of conflicting reports between facilities director and from the town itself, are we making any progress on getting those critical values that we need to have before we can put a request out for bid? Or are we just sort of fully stalled out at this point?
As far as,
The appropriated funds from special town meeting?
I can't answer that. I'd have to talk to the facilities director where he is specifically with that. I know we're dealing with a number of other projects, capital projects that we're trying to get off the books as well.
I think we should take a hard look at not spending that $600,000 on that building, putting it to the
300.
schools that are being used,
300,000.
whatever it is, 300,000, putting it to the schools that are at use, and start to put a plan together to demolish that building, as well as Brooks House. And let's just get moving forward on this building plan. The schools have already said they can house the extended day in the schools. And that was one of the big drivers for why we needed such a significant amount of space there, so. This is a huge financial impact on the town, and these nearly abandoned buildings are kind of just wasting money, in my opinion.
Yeah, just to add on, that hasn't always been the case made about, the town, the school utilizing space in that building, that was their preferred location. So, if that, as that changes, therefore, the space needs change for that building.
I know, but I've been pushing on this for 4 years, that those were desirements, not requirements. And we're not having the luxury of having desired locations. We need to have required locations. And the size of that building at this point is a huge burden, both to maintain, to heat, to put electricity into, to throw a $300,000 roof on, where we don't even know the long-term plan for it. It's time to make that plan. I'm not preaching to you because it's not your decision, but it should be one of our top priorities right now is to deal with it. And we have new facts now, and I think the facilities director's opinions and recommendations based on being in this job for over a year now, should be of high importance to the decision-making, so.
Chris, and what's gonna really drive your comments home is if we get into a situation where piece by piece, as it already has, that building becomes more and more unusable, and then we're gonna be paying for temporary locations for everything housed in there, and I understand the school can move their programs for the most part out, but we're also gonna be trying to construct something at the same time. This, I agree, this is the time, because we're, as the town manager said, we're at a crossroads where we're about to fall into that trap where we gotta get people out of the building and we got no place to go with them.
Yeah, and I think we heard from the school facility director that he's starting to put his real plans together on what's required to maintain the existing schools, including the new middle high school. So
Right.
a lot of expenses coming up, all part of this, 10-year plan that really needs to get put together.
There's also the issue of the food pantry and the gym that we vote in. I mean, we could probably move it over to, I'm sure we could do it at the high school, but where are you gonna move the food pantry to? I mean, I agree that they should, I think it's wise to send the kids over to the primary school in Turkey Hill. The superintendent had talked about how that could potentially reduce a bus, which Dee said no to, but, so that kind of killed that conversation, but it doesn't mean it can't still happen.
Right.
The ACE program is in there, and then you have the superintendent's office is in there. I agree, it's just, I don't think it's as simple as get the kids out, knock it down, get pack out, knock it down. I think it's, I like the idea of knock the back two wings down and at least use the front for now.
That was the original plan, or at least thought of, and one of the things was that Phase 1 was going to be to renovate and expand Ritter, and the people who are in Ritter would be moving into that building, and the roof being repaired would be, make sure that those areas stay usable. And then this building here, Town Hall, would be renovated, and then finally, no decision was made, but most likely knocking down the wings and using the remaining part of Ritter as for the town, as a community center, whatever it was going to be. But there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of things that have changed since we've last met at Municipal Building, so I'm not sure where that stands, but it's still it was still the plan, or at least the discussion of a plan.
When's the next municipal building design committee meeting?
Nobody knows.
No, well, obviously, our chairman is Selectman Jeffries, and I think he's been so busy with everything else and these things, so he hasn't had one, but I think I can send an email to him and ask him when he wants to have another meeting.
Not to get too deep into this subject, but I don't see sense in moving people from one dilapidated building to another dilapidated building so we can renovate a dilapidated building, then move them into that renovated one, and then build a new space right next to it. That makes no sense. You build a new space first and you move people into that, then that opens up the space for the other shifts. I'll leave it at that because I don't want to argue this thing for 3 hours tonight.
Yeah, but I don't know why we can't just lease building. There's open office and space, Chapter Lane, and, across from Walmart is all open. Why, they have doctor's offices at one point in there. Why couldn't we have temporary town offices there? I just think we got to think outside the box on how to move forward with this and do it, because I think we're wasting a lot of operating funds in a year where we're proposing a 2.5 override, that those operation funds could have gone towards deficits elsewhere, so. Now's the time to make a decision on this.
And then the last update I had was the, get off that topic.
Yep.
The means tested, senior citizen home rule petition is on the governor's desk. So it's not signed yet, but it made it through both the House and Senate.
Excellent.
Heather, did that have a cost estimate attached to it when it was created? Not necessarily when it was submitted, but do we have a breakdown of approximately what that costs? And I'm assuming that just redisperses through the rest of the taxpayers, if I remember correctly.
It does. I know analysis was done. Selectman Alonso and Selectman Franco were part of that, so I don't know those numbers off the top of my head. Okay. But it would shift those taxes to the rest of the taxpayers. That's all I had.
Thank you. Can we go back to the Woodruff property?
Mm-hmm.
What exactly, is that town property?
Yes.
And what's the situation up there, and what is the expected cost to remove whatever it is we're removing?
That property, when the town acquired it, and can't recall what year it was acquired, was an old farm, so it has a lot of old farm equipment and debris. Would be considered hazardous waste, so it would be the removal of everything like that. It is a very steep embankment of where the debris is located, so it's going to take a unique contractor that has the equipment to be able to remove it. And the appropriation for that was $100,000. That was through town meeting.
Heather, my understanding, that cleanup that was initiated up there was to remove new trash contamination on the property, not the old farm equipment, because, I mean, we have farm equipment spread out in the woods and wetlands all over New England. Am I incorrect in saying that, or?
No, it's all old surface level stuff, but not new.
What is considered hazardous?
So it would be like tires and barrels. Nothing, there was no liquid type of contamination found, but all the metals and everything considered hazardous.
Why isn't this something that the DPW could do? I mean, I understand you need to
They
bring in,
don't
like,
have, because of the steepness of this area, they don't have the equipment or, yeah, you'd have to see the location to understand how severe the terrain is.
Yeah.
But
Heather, who's got care and custody of that property?
the select board.
Select board, okay.
Any other questions? All right, let's move on to the consent calendar. So this is an attempt to shorten as best as possible town meeting.
Yes.
And for those that don't know, we take the least contentious articles and combine them into a single calendar article, basically, and we vote on them as a group, as a whole. And for annual town meeting, it doesn't require, is it just a,
9/10.
is it 9/10 still?
It's,
9/10? No, it's special town meeting.
4/5.
4/5 for annual and 9/10 for special.
Well, it's only 4/5 because it has the payment of prior year expense in there.
That's right. Okay.
Otherwise, it would be majority vote.
Okay. So I have them up on the screen here. The articles that that the town manager is recommending goes into the consent calendar are Article 1, which the town is the select board is recommending to pass over Article 1, as we've already accepted the regular written reports of town offices and committees.
Procedural question on that. How can you pass over a particular article, yet you're putting it in the consent calendar? You have to bring it on the floor to pass over it.
No, it can be part of the motions. It's just, so this is the motion for that article as well. We've done it in prior years as well.
So it'll be read as the motion is to pass over Article 1, and then after that, the rest will be to pass articles? We're doing two different things within a consent calendar, and I don't think that's proper.
We're passing over Article 25 as well on the consent calendar, the last one.
Yes. So each motion is read, and there's the ability for anyone to hold and pull an article off of the consent calendar.
Right.
But it's voted as a group, so every motion is read, and then entirely it's voted on by whatever the percentage vote needed by the, according to the article that needs the highest percentage.
So you could always just put a hold on it when they read through it on the floor.
Please don't.
Yeah.
Don't, but please,
Yeah,
you
you know,
could.
and Mr. Alonso brought up the same point, that, forcing the 4/5 for the consent calendar, when we could pull that one article and spend 3 minutes on it and pass it, or do whatever we want with that, and still pass the consent calendar in the same amount of time with a majority vote. So,
That's
we'll wait and
reasonable.
see what happens on town meeting floor. I'm not gonna pull it tonight.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I do wonder if we're going to pull 4/5 if we do have a large turnout at town meeting.
Right.
Just sort of unsure of the I mean, it's the first thing that we get into for people that haven't been to a town meeting before. It can be sort of over, deer in headlights kind of a reaction. Just all of a sudden you're jumping into all this stuff and you're just dumping 12 articles up there right away and reading through them just like that. It can be a lot.
I think that's part of the thought process with the one or two that make it a little bit more dicey and a process where you could pull those, vote them separately, and then have usually a better result, and it's only majority vote.
I think it's how the moderator presents it. It's, if it is presented as why we're doing it, that it's normal, that these are to save time, so we have more time and energy for the other articles, I think would be, if it's done properly, I think people would understand, and if they don't, when there's enough of them, then we'll have to go through them individually, but I think it's a good thing to have a consent agenda item, just to save time and to push through these things.
Oh, I agree completely. I would love it if we could get 24 of them into a consent calendar.
All right, we're done. All right.
Exactly. Just
We
9:30.
we could do a handout as well that explains consent calendar. I also always have a slide up
Yep.
as people are filtering in that explains what the consent calendar is. I think the town moderator does a good job with explaining that to the voters.
Which is the article that's causing us to go up to 4/5 rather than a majority?
Article 4,
Okay. The free so $1,900.
the payment of the prior year expense.
I mean, at this point, is it impossible to pull that article out, or is that something that has to be done on town floor?
We can pull it out tonight if we choose to.
Yeah, it's not impossible.
I'm inclined to pull it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. I mean, for $2,000 and
And- and-
potentially having to go through all of the articles.
And a 4 to 5 minute discussion and vote for one, to get past that article.
Right.
I'll formally request that it be pulled off the consent
So,
calendar.
just so I understand, so if we don't have Article 4 in the consent, then it's a
Simple majority.
simple majority, so, okay.
Heather, 4 will still have to be a 4/5 standing on its own though, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah, well, it makes sense. If we're concerned about that would make sense.
yeah.
Are you making that into a formal motion?
Yes. Excuse me, I'm sorry about that.
Do you want to make an actual motion?
I move that we ask that Article 4 be removed from this consent calendar.
Second.
All right. Discussion.
Are we voting on all the,
So,
consent?
I think all we have to vote on are the ones we want pulled from the list, unless the chair wants to do it differently.
Correct. I don't think we need, we've already gone through on the individuals and given our recommendation for them. None of the ones that the two that we've deferred on.
No, I know, but we haven't voted to form this consent calendar. Do we usually do that? I can't remember.
We usually vote we agree on these, so
Right.
maybe after we do this, we could, if we don't have any more, we can just say, we agree on the remaining ones to be on the
Yeah.
consent agenda.
To make it clean, yeah, we could vote on them. Traditionally, it's the select board sets the consent calendar, and then we have the next shot at modifying it, and then everybody at town meeting has the next shot to modify it.
It's essentially trying to get a consensus between the select board and finance.
Right.
That you agree they're not controversial articles,
Yep.
that they belong on the consent calendar.
Yeah, I don't, go ahead, Jay.
has prior year expenses always been a 4/5 vote?
Yes.
At an annual town meeting, it's 4/5. At a special, it's 9/10.
Yeah.
But has it-
Traditionally, the consent calendar is a unanimous vote.
Right.
But
Well, not anymore.
I'm not betting on anything this year.
Yeah, there's almost no unanimous.
Now that we have the clickers, it's no longer, nothing's unanimous. It's just great.
Yeah.
People aren't worried to be that one person holding their card up. I think it's, they shouldn't be worried, but it's still great. Ms. Lemieux, is there, other than obviously for simplicity and trying to condense everything down as quickly as possible and get as much done in the single vote as possible, is there any other reason that we would not, given that we're trying to get it to pass as quickly and as easily as possible with just a simple majority, is there any other reason you can think of to keep Article 4 in?
No, if that's a concern, it's not a problem to remove it.
Okay.
So how would that be funded if it doesn't pass?
It will just be, so all the consent calendar articles will be voted on, and
Article 4.
then we'll vote on, the next article that would be voted would be Article 3, then Article 4, and so on.
Right.
No, I mean, Article 4 specifically.
Or if
We
it
take
doesn't
that out
actually
and it
pass.
doesn't pass, how is it going to be funded?
That's the funding source. Yeah, it has to be approved at town meeting.
Right.
So we'd have outstanding bills until the next town meeting.
Or special town meeting.
Special town, well, yeah, special town meeting.
We have a fundraiser.
Yeah.
Could probably
And
raise
and
it.
conversely too, if the consent calendar fails, then we just go back to each individual
Right.
article.
Right.
So there's a fail-safe built in there that it doesn't automatically defeat them all or pass them all unless we pass it.
I mean,
I'm good with either way, so I'm inclined, if there's people that don't want it in there, to pull it, and I'm inclined to vote on the rest of them for
I'm kind of torn,
recommending it.
because I could see, I'm all for just getting a simple majority, and again, I'm with Dave, I have no idea what's gonna happen at town meeting. We could have 150 people, we could have 1,500 people, I don't know.
Yeah.
At the same time, I think the more that we can check off all at as one big group, the better it's going to be. But with this one, I agree. I see it as a 3 to 4 minute discussion, or if there is even a question that's asked, maybe 1 or 2 questions and it's voted on. So,
I'm ready to vote.
yeah. Any other discussions about it? All right, so motion is made and seconded to recommend removal of Article 4 from the consent calendar. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we recommend removing Article 4 and dropping it down to a simple majority.
I make a motion to recommend approval of the remainder of the consent
Do
calendar.
we have all the numbers? Because I was marking them as you gave them. Did I miss something? My brain might have gone somewhere else, but I have nothing marked past Article 4.
Oh, yeah, we have a bunch. We have Article 1,
Yep,
which is recommended to be passed over. Article 2, which is a revolving funds one. Article 12 now, which is transferring from free cash to the stabilization fund. Article 13, transferring from free cash to the special purpose stabilization fund. Article 14, the sewer enterprise retained earnings and the OPEB trust fund transfers from free cash. Article 16, the sewer enterprise retained earnings into the sewer capital reserve stabilization fund. Article 17, the solid waste disposal enterprise revenues going into the solid waste disposal transfer between, sorry, for the solid waste disposal program. Article 18, the water department revenues, $45,000 to go to the water department. Article 19 is the public access cable-related revenues going to their enterprise fund. Article 20, the cemetery lots, going to moving the $10,000 from the sale of cemetery lots as usual, and then Article 25 is being recommended to pass over.
okay, the only question, and I'm okay with the list.
I did make a motion though, so.
Go ahead, then I'll just
I
ask a
already
question about 18, that's all.
Well, we can have all the
Well-
discussion you want.
I did make a motion.
Was it seconded?
I don't know.
It was not.
No, it
I
wasn't,
was
'cause I interrupted.
Do you want to finalize your motion? Since you were interrupted.
I did finalize.
You did?
Yeah.
Second. All right, motion's made
Did
and
you list
second.
the articles? Because I stopped you
Said the
because I didn't
remainder.
have them, I didn't know what the article numbers were.
He had said just the remainder of the articles. We have a document from,
I said,
Are you talking consent calendar or the other article?
the consent.
consent
But
calendar.
but the folks at home are not seeing, are they?
Yeah, I have them up on the screen.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I just scrolled through them all.
Okay, we don't need to drag this out anymore. Second?
All right, discussion on the remaining articles then.
Yeah, the only question I have, and it's for the town manager through you, Mr. Chair. Number 18, and I'll probably be corrected, but I have a $25,000 number in that line item in my memory for as long as I can remember. When did we jump to 45,000, and what's the driving force there with only, I believe it's a half a dozen customers?
That, we talked about that this fiscal year, increasing that, and that's based on historical, bills and revenues for that.
For 6 water users?
It's, I believe, 11 different properties, including like the Tri-Town apartment building.
Okay, that's fine. I'm done.
Any other discussion?
And that's, and just so everybody knows, that's essentially a pass-through. We get bills from Fitchburg for those water users, and we in turn bill our residents for that expense.
Yeah, how did that come to be? And I know it's been there forever, but we have Lunenburg people, residents and businesses on Leominster Water, and we don't have to do that. Why do we have to do this with Fitchburg?
That's a good question. That's just been in place.
It had something to do with when
Well, timely.
Tri-Town was built and they went to Fitchburg to get water instead of the Lunenburg Water District.
Okay, I just think it's something that, really the town shouldn't have to be administering. Granted, it supposedly pays for itself because this is the cost to Fitchburg, and we supposedly recoup it all from the users. I've never seen that line item actually balanced out, but I'll make that assumption for now. Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? All right, motion is to recommend the, or to recommend the recommendation of the consent calendar recommendation for the remaining articles, removing Article 4. So those in favor of recommendation of the consent calendar as it is now, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, we are unanimous again.
It goes like that on town meeting floor, we're gonna be there for an extra 3 hours.
Yes, that's why the town moderator does the talking and I don't. 'Cause I'll get the numbers wrong too. And
Yep.
all right. Thank you for putting that together, Ms. Lemieux. That's very helpful.
Cool.
All right, moving down to town meeting discussion. So this is just a very broad topic I wanted to throw on there just for any general conversation people want to have about the meeting. We just scheduled, or the town manager just scheduled the pre-meeting for next Wednesday, I believe. What we do at the chairs. Yeah, the chair of the select board, the chair of the school committee, the people that are going to be presenting, usually the land use directors there as well. Town moderator, the attorney, our town attorney. But she's now inviting the superintendent. There's some IT people coming. It's getting much larger in preparation. So I just wanted to get a chance to offer to the committee any questions or concerns or anything that we want to bring to that meeting in advance of it. Or just general conversation about how we are anticipating it to go. We will not have a meeting in between that meeting and town meeting. Okay. I'm happy to send out kind of an update of this is what the town decided to put together. I'm sure it's going to be, from what I understand, there's an overflow plan and all of that. Is it in the
I'll tell you a
agenda?
little bit
Sure.
where we're at as well. So we've been working on overflow planning for higher than normal attendance. And so working with the town clerk, IT, public access, the school, our voting equipment vendor. We're borrowing the water district's 200 clickers. We have 600. So the plan is the auditorium has capacity about 600 people, a little over. So those 600 clickers would be dedicated to the auditorium first. The overflow rooms of the gym and cafeteria will be set up, and the 200 voting clickers will be distributed to those two spaces to keep them separated. There'll be video and audio in both the overflow rooms. So that will be part of the discussion on Wednesday is barring that we don't have more than 800 people at our meeting, that how those rooms will be set up with whoever needs to be staffing them, whether a deputy moderator would be in each of those overflow rooms if they're needed. So that would be something the moderator would have to appoint a deputy moderator at the beginning of the meeting or two. And so that will be the front part of the meeting to review the logistics of that. I talked to our IT admin today, asked her to put out kind of an informal survey on social media. So nothing that's anyone's mandated to fill out, but maybe it will give us some kind of inclination of how many people will show up so we can know for staffing purposes what we'll need.
Do we,
And
go ahead, sorry.
just, there will be bagged lunches being sold as well. So that will be new addition this year. And I think that's all I have. Time.
What's the plan if we get over 800 voters for
That would have
managing
to be
votes?
discussed on Wednesday, because that would be a town clerk call, because those would then, I think we'd revert back to voice votes or card votes. So counting those in the overflow rooms.
Okay. And do we have a make or break it number for what we can hold in the overflow rooms and the auditorium?
We have capacity numbers for each of those rooms. I believe the cafeteria was over 300 itself, so the gym was higher than that. I do have those figures from the superintendent.
Okay. So we won't, in all likelihood, unless we have 80% of the town showing up, we will not have to postpone?
Correct.
Okay.
And we've tested out all the equipment already. Everything seems to be functioning well, and including, because our initial concern was the clickers have a range, but we've worked with the vendor on setting up, I don't want to say like a repeater, but a module that will, making sure that all those votes are tallied. It's just a slight delay that the moderator will have to take in consideration when calling for the vote and waiting for those numbers to come up.
Okay.
There's a need for all these contingencies, but I'll tell you what, out on the street, I'm hearing that there are an awful lot of people that have commitments that are not going to allow them to be at town meeting, although they would really like to be, but their commitments are stronger than their feeling that they need to be at town meeting.
Yeah, so we'd rather be prepared, obviously.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree.
We don't want to postpone town meeting.
Yep.
So, but, yeah, hopefully it's not a 80-degree day and we lose a whole bunch of people.
What do we have for registered voters, Heather? Do you have a rough number? 7,000 or 8,000?
I thought it was less than
I
that.
thought so too.
It might be less than that. It's a sad number compared to the 12,000 that we have in town.
It is.
How much parking do we have in that area?
Question two.
That's a good question.
It's usually answered by not enough, but
We lined up.
Well, when they had the, last year, they had, in the auditorium, they had the assessors meeting, and I got there late, and there was no parking. I had to go park at Turkey Hill.
Yeah.
And I was lucky to get a spot, and that place wasn't even full. I mean, it was a lot of people there at that meeting, but it wasn't full. So if we have 1,000 people, it's gonna be people parking on the streets, and it'll be a, are the police gonna be hanging around?
They're always in attendance.
Right.
We always have at least 2 officers there. And I can speak to the chief about, making sure there's at least a contingency plan for traffic.
Yep.
Any other questions or anything else you want to bring forward? Parking is a good one. It'd be nice if we could get Dee to shuttle people in if we need to. If we're doing school lunches, we might as well put them on a yellow school bus too.
no, I think there should be VIP parking, but I don't know.
Valet parking?
Oh,
Oh, there we go, that's an idea.
we may be able
We
to
could
make
raise that $2,000 real quick. typically we have if you're facing the stage, the lower left-hand side of the audience is usually for out-of-towners. Are we not letting them sit there? Or visitors, yeah, thank you.
Because we do have department heads as well that don't live in town,
Right.
so yeah, we'd have to either ask them for standing approval later. But
Have them sit in the hallway and wait.
yeah,
Okay,
Good subject for your meeting.
yeah.
I'm sure the moderator will have an opinion.
At least I know where I'm sitting.
We just gotta get there first. All right, any other discussion on the town meeting before we have the town meeting?
I might show up with a red flag so Tim can see me. He always looks over me.
Better than a white flag.
All right, moving on to old business. Review the report for the warrant. So everyone has a copy of the report at this point. And rather than go through and painstakingly read it again, I'm fine taking a few minutes for everyone just to read through it on their own, really quickly. And just see if there's anything glaring that stands out or that needs to be changed. I try not to change anything substantive. Oh, and I need to recalculate something real quick while we're doing that.
The only feel I got, and I didn't have time to even think about what a closing paragraph might be, is that I felt like it just stopped, like we ran out of time to write it and that's it. If we want to leave it that way, that's fine, but that was the feel when I got to the end of the last page.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I was reworking that one, moving things around. That makes sense. Missed the two periods in the same paragraph. At the very end.
No, I gotta see.
You got the two periods too? Oh, good. Just making sure.
When does the 2.5% increase play into this, in '26?
No, it would start in '25. It would start in July 1st.
Except for the fact that our valuations are our valuations and the estimated rates are what are on this thing. So the 2.5 really only affects I don't know, I haven't been able to sort that out clearly in my head. I've been busy with other stuff spinning in my head.
No, it should still work because this goes off of the most recent valuations.
Right.
I'm sorry.
This goes off of the most recent valuations.
And projected tax rate.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's what I've been trying to make clear to citizens that have been asking questions on Facebook. I haven't posted much recently in regards to the actual numbers, but that they need to be sure that they're looking at the correct valuation for their individual properties. Because it's very easy to accidentally pick the 2024 valuation, but this is all going to be based on the 2025 valuation with the new valuations calculated, not what they were before the 5-year reval went in place.
But everyone should have just received those valuations
Right, we
in their
talked about
most
this the last
recent
meeting,
tax
right, the
bill.
bills are out now.
Right. The most recent painful bills.
But
that
both of
everyone
those numbers are there, so you gotta just make sure you're looking at the correct year.
Right, right. Yeah, the only other thing that I was concerned with was whether or not the table was somewhat confusing. And then it gives an estimated tax bill without the override, it gives an estimated tax bill with the override, or tax increase and decrease, I guess, or increases. I want to make sure it's crystal clear that it's one or the other, it's not additive.
Well, you wanna color them?
Yes.
Sorry, I just had to add that in.
I assume it reads that way, but
I figured mine out to 90 cups of coffee, by the way.
Well, it says the following tables illustrate the effects of Proposition 2.5 increase with or without the override, so it kind of explains it. The only thing I had was, it says 42M, maybe put million instead of M, where it, bottom of page 2, just the 42 million that we could borrow.
Somebody chose to shorten that, didn't we talk
I
about
did.
that the last
that
meeting?
was Jay.
I did.
I had all the numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, no, just the word million.
Oh, take out the capital M and actually write 42.
Because I just think someone's gonna go, what's M, 40, you know, I don't know, but I think
Okay.
most people would get it, but since,
Shouldn't vote on the budget.
I mean, the only other thing that I had thought of that could be added right below the chart would be a calculation line without the numbers plugged in, because, you know, you got a $50,000, no, you got a $100,000 jump from category to category to category. There's an awful lot of different valuations within those areas, or within those values. I mean, mine's $312,000 going into
You gotta
fiscal
round up or round
25.
down. You gotta round it up or round it down.
I can give a master course in Excel plotting because it's a linear fit.
417.
The difference
That's
between each step is the same value.
Yeah, it's
So you could-
$100,000.
No, between the estimated impact. It's $62.50 between, or something to that effect, I think, for each step. So you divide that by 100, and that's how much it is per dollar, or per $1,000 more.
I would recommend we stay with what we have.
yeah. I agree.
The 481, 417 valuation, is that the average?
That was the that was what
Yeah.
was
Yeah, so
listed
that was
as the average. I wanted to throw that one in there specifically, so we at least have what the average value. I mean, there's not going to be many that are 1.55 million.
Oh, I know.
I considered
Nice.
taking off half of
I
those.
could have highlighted that one, or stated that.
Could you put an asterisk next to that and put an explanation under the chart?
Sure.
Because that's the only, I agree, that's the only deviation from what you just said 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, I can do that. I'll have to do it offline because I posted it as a picture. I didn't like how it posted otherwise.
We're going to print it double-sided to save paper.
Yeah. This was, I printed it on my way out the door, and my printer doesn't like to automatically go to one page, double-sided.
Should be a standard default setting.
That's what I said. 4 kids, it gets changed on a daily basis.
You also have massive margins.
Heather, very quickly, did you get any more clarification on the elementary and high school heating exempted borrowing? I thought about it. I actually woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning about a week ago, and I think I know what that was. I'm just wondering if you got any clarification on it.
And don't we usually sign these?
I think I had brought that up as far as what it's titled last
Right, I
week.
understand what it's titled, but it's very unclear,
Yeah.
really, in this day and age, what that really was. Would you agree that it was the project that upgraded the heating system in TCP and had something to do with the conversion of the system or disconnection of the system in the old high school?
Put our name.
I'll put our name.
Or there was an upgrade at both locations? I think that's what that money was for.
I can bring one.
Yeah, I think
Sign it all
at
the
both
meeting.
locations.
We can hand in for like, the formal.
And it wasn't super descriptive in the town meeting vote.
But yeah, I'll
Either.
sign it off and all that stuff.
Basically, what it boiled down to is for years, we pumped steam downhill to the high school, and then we condensed it and we heated water. And I think that project put a separate hot water heating system into the high school and upgraded the boilers or something to that effect in the TCP building. That's my recollection, and I think that was the project. It's interesting that we're just paying that off now. That's why I have an issue with the state suggesting we amortize building projects for 40 years.
Did we already vote on this? Or?
No, we haven't voted on this.
I'd like to make a motion, we approve the annual report with the minor edits that were made
With
during the meeting.
amendments.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. I will make that change to the table and add a little asterisk for it. I've already verified the 16.39% decrease, so that's correct. I'll add our names to it. Give it a more formal heading. And I did make the other changes already in the document that I have on my computer. So I will get that submitted to the town tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you and Tiffany for.
99% of it was Tiffany, so thank you, Tiffany. So, Ms. Lemieux, just kind of backtracking a little bit, I thought of another question for the town meeting discussion. The override article, have we received, I know that the town attorney met with the select board and they discussed it a little bit, but I don't know if there was ever a resolution. If someone makes an amendment to the override article and changes more than just a decrease in the dollar value or something, is that even allowed at this point?
It would be, it has to be similar to the ballot question, so,
Right.
you know, it may be allowed to be amended, but then,
You'd have to have a special election.
right, if it doesn't, you know, match the ballot question.
Okay, so it's still within the scope and the spirit of, this is kind of what I'm getting at. Did Mr. Costa say that it remains in the scope or the spirit if someone wants to change the value, increasing it, or changing it to, or just a department or anything like that? Is that all still within the spirit as it is an override in general?
the department as well, that, no, because I definitely think that would be outside the scope.
Okay.
Because it's specific, it says Lunenburg Public Schools.
Right. Okay. So just for general knowledge, because there has been some discussion on Facebook I've seen, the really good place to get your information.
I'm sure a lot of people are going to try and do something with it, but.
And that's exactly why I want to make sure that it is known that it is not allowed to change the department or to broaden it to the town or anything like that, because that's that's outside of the scope of the amendment, of the article.
Right, but also
That
in your
would
comments.
definitely be up, sorry?
I was just going to ask for verification. Also in your comments a minute ago was the ability to raise or lower the number.
Right.
Can go both directions?
You can go down. I know you can go down. I don't know if you can go up.
Yeah, that's what I'm questioning is increasing. I don't think you can, but I don't know.
I don't think so as well. And obviously that's a town moderator decision.
Yeah.
But that's not giving voters notice, if it were higher than that amount.
Right. Or changing the manner in which the override takes place as well, whether it be like a one-time debt exclusion or something like that, moving it to a debt exclusion or something to that effect.
Yeah, okay.
None of that would be allowed.
I just wanted to digest what you just said, that's all. Yep, I get it.
Because I do expect there to be some amendments thrown at this thing.
And a move to pass over.
It's worth a shot.
It's all typed.
And I move the question.
I've already promised that if it gets to be more than like 30 minutes, I will move the question myself.
I don't, well, that's up to the moderator. He can shoot you down.
No, he still has to it just has to be seconded and it gets voted on to move to, I don't think so.
Yeah, he's got some leeway.
Oh, he does, that's right.
He does.
There's still a line.
Like times gives him some power to not agree to that.
Fair enough. I'm still going to try. All right. Thank you. I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember what Mr. Costa's final decision was. I know there was some back and forth with the select board about what was and what wasn't allowed.
Can there be any limits to discussion, like one person can't talk for 25 minutes? Is that, the moderator has that authority to limit?
Yeah,
it to,
he'll cut them off.
Like 3 minutes or,
Yeah.
I think some people, when they get revved up, they can go on and on and on and on, and
There was a discussion.
Some of those people are on the finance committee now, I heard.
There was a discussion that I was part of, and I don't remember if it was after a meeting here or during or whatever, that one of the local towns had 2 colored cards that they handed out to the people that wanted to speak. So as they were in line, depending on what color card they had in their hand, it was for or against. And it helped the moderator kind of balance out the discussion. But that might be something that could be mentioned in your meeting.
Okay. I will bring that up.
Especially if you've got 30 more people in line with the same color card that are going to say the same thing as the first 30 people, then it's time to end discussion, I would think.
The moderator usually says it unless you have something new to add.
You're right.
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 But he's still good about, he'll let people come back up to the microphone and talk a second, third, fourth, fifth time. It
Yep.
becomes
Keeps it fair.
yeah. And I agree, Mr. Menard, we do technically already have a deputy moderator. It's an appointed position by the moderator.
Right.
So, I don't know. Does he have the authority to deputize more? Can we give him little Star Wars badges?
Is that Rob or is it somebody else?
I think it's Rob.
Rob Bowen.
Rob Bowen, right?
Yeah, I believe so. That's, I was just.
It's been Rob Bowen for years and years.
Only a few years.
Has it?
Only, only a
He
few.
figured out he could do that a few years ago.
Oh, okay. It's just been Mr. Murphy for a while.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in case the stormtroopers get him.
All right. On here, just to keep them on here, any FY '25 budget discussions before we close out budget season?
Not specifically for 25, but And Heather, you don't have to weigh in on this right now, but I'd just like, it's actually an item for future discussion between more than just this committee, and that is to figure out what the avenues are going to be to get to a point where we have borrowing capacity for short-term borrowing. You know, what can we do, thinking outside the box, to get in a position where we're able to take on short-term debt that we can actually pay for. I think that's going to be a really important piece over the next couple of years and longer.
Okay. All right, override discussion. Anyone who want to talk about the override anymore?
Nope.
Before we talk about it a
Just
lot?
vote- Just vote no.
Or yes.
Or yes,
Or yes.
Or no.
or
By
emphatically.
the way, I've been very clear on Facebook, I'm looking for signs from Groton, Pepperell, and Townsend. If you want to recycle your signs, I'm willing to come get them.
I'll take the yes signs. If anybody wants to give
Equal
those ones.
opportunity.
Yeah. Pass them on down the road. All right, we have 2 articles that we have deferred to town meeting. I don't see any reason to rehash them today.
No.
So I'm happy to continue to pass those over. Minutes. I have not looked at any of the minutes. I know Danielle's put a couple in there.
I read through both of them. The only issue I have, again, is, I believe in the second one, it says grant writer rather than grant writer services.
Okay.
That's the only change I saw in the 2.
Yeah, I would say the only problem is we have 6 sets of minutes that we have to approve.
Currently in there? Or just on, in general?
Yeah, March 14th, 2021, 28, 4, and 11.
Well, we're doing better than the select board. They just approved their October ones.
Doesn't that violate?
Yes.
It's, how long is it? 2 months? A month?
Is it 30 days or 60 days? 30 days, isn't it?
Okay.
And then we have, it looks like February 8th too, but
What dates do we not have? Fantastic. We don't have February 8th?
you have 3 months to approve.
Just get a note.
Yeah.
Thank you, Karen.
And we have a couple from 2023, I think, that need to be written.
Okay.
So maybe we can get those one, they should all be taped. Maybe Danielle can do those as well.
Yeah. Once we get through these 6 and out of town meeting, I think we can make that one of our first priorities too.
Well, I would say that those ones are very important because we are out of the 3-month window.
Right.
Lines.
Do we have the dates for them? I mean, we could send an email now.
Yeah, I mean, you can look online where we're missing them. And I verified that I hadn't seen any of them.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, I think, well, it looks like this might have been one that did.
Has anybody else read the March 21st and 20th and 21st? Because if we've got at least 3 members that have, I'd like to vote those tonight.
I read them before. I don't think I remember them, but I did read them.
Well, that was the 2 nights in a row with 4.5 hours each night, was it?
Yep. 4 and then 4.5.
Hard to forget,
Those are the record breakers.
except for
Wasn't there a
trying to
question
remember
on
what
one of
was
them?
said by the 3rd hour.
Has anyone else read those 2?
Or if we
I
take 2 more
I haven't
minutes.
read them. I thought she had a question on, something about the audio
The
went
pres-
out on one of them. For like 12 minutes. March 21st, the audio cut out.
Yeah, was that, she just didn't know who seconded it?
No, it's that there was minutes of audio that weren't there.
Yeah, that she doesn't have any.
Are we still allowed to approve them with that, as is?
Yeah.
Even with a chunk of time missing?
Oh, the only other thing she talked about was not having the presentations to add, but can those be
Yeah.
added later? I don't see any reason why they can't. And if it doesn't exist in the recording, how are we gonna recover it unless we sit and close our eyes and try to replay the whole meeting?
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. You don't have to have a transcription of the meeting.
Right.
Okay.
And it's actually a month or 3 meetings, so I would recommend that we try to approve those two.
I'm happy to.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of March 20th and 21st.
Second?
Any discussion? Do we have a majority of people that have read them? Okay. Before we take a vote that fails. All right, so motion's made and seconded to approve the March 20th and March 21st minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And I will abstain. So we have passed those ones 5-0-1. All right. So now we just have 5 sets of minutes to get through. And I'll go back through and take a look at what we're supposed to have, what we have missing, and I'll send a note off to Danielle and see if we can get those pulled. All right, 9 minutes left before 9 o'clock. Any committee reports?
If you do speak with Danielle, can you ask her to place them in the folder, in review one?
Yeah.
Because I think if we workflow it that way better, we were better at getting on top of them when I don't have to search through emails for.
I honestly like them coming through the email because I can pick them up from my phone and I can be out in the woods cutting trees and I can read them out there.
Well, I mean, she can email them as well, but if we can put them in there, at least you workflow them.
Mm-hmm. I think she has access to it. I'll double check to make sure she has access to the SharePoint.
If not, we can give it.
Oh, it's very easy. All right, any committee reports?
The only thing I had with Parks is that they reorganized last night. So Anita Sheepers, I might have got her name wrong, the pronunciation, is now chair, and Colleen Shapiro is vice chair. So Karen is clerk, and Chris and Anna are along for the ride, I guess,
Taking some breaths.
taking some breaths. So,
Chris, there was a reference made at that meeting of the new plan. I didn't question it last night, but could you, don't fill us in tonight, but I'd be interested to know what the quote-unquote new plan is.
Okay.
Now, maybe, I don't know if that was a misspoken definition or not.
Okay.
Any other committee reports? Any topics for future meetings that we'd like to discuss? Can add it to the list.
Yeah, I would like to get the Chapter 90 briefing that Select Board got.
Oh, okay.
And the ability to kind of question anything related to it.
Was that given by the town manager, or was that given by DPW? Okay.
DPW director.
Select board last night,
Okay.
well, Tuesday night.
Yeah. Yeah, and I heard it, and it sounded good that we're putting a plan together that we can assess. There's probably a few other plans that need to to be put together, both within the DPW, but facilities, school facilities, et cetera.
It's definitely gonna pull a couple of items off the capital plan list, which is too bad it hasn't done it before this, but it really doesn't affect anything, because the
They were below.
items that were covered were too low on the list anyway.
Any other topics? All right, our next meeting is officially town meeting. So, thank you everyone for a very diligent and very hard-worked budget season. This has been this is one to remember, unfortunately.
Fortunately.
So yes, May 4th at the middle high school, starting at 9 a.m. I suggest strongly people arrive a little bit early.
Line starts at the door at 7.
Yep. Yeah, I wonder if we'll be able to get in if we get there a little bit late and there's a line.
Probably be over capacity and we won't be able to sit at the table.
Darn. I'll give up my chair.
There will be a point I leave the meeting if it goes long, because I have a flight that night.
As long as you make it through the 8th article. That's all that really matters, right? No. Hopefully it doesn't last too long. Other important dates after that are the 18th of May, which is the annual town election. That is taking place at TCP at the gym. And I believe it is normal election hours on a Saturday, which is 7 a.m. I don't want to say for sure. I don't know for sure.
It's posted at the end of the public safety building driveway.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to say
There
for sure.
will be any, if it's not there.
Something, yeah, it's much longer than starting at 9
I
a.m.
take that back, the water department has their signs running right now, but
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be up soon.
Yep. So annual town election is at least on the 18th of May.
Yeah.
And you
And
can
a
stop by
reminder that I
TCP.
believe you can still vote over the counter at the town clerk's office, but I don't have that
I don't know.
particular schedule.
Not sure. With that, is there any public comment from the committee this evening? To close it out.
And just one thing, I was watching on Facebook, and there was a bunch of questions from people about the water district issues. And if anybody's listening, my suggestion is they just probably, I don't know if they're still doing it, but they did a presentation at the middle high school auditorium, and there was another one done that I saw online by the water district where all sorts of questions were answered. Get your answers there rather than from Facebook, because sometimes they are not accurate.
Really?
I know, I'm the first one to ever say it, but I just, when people are asking questions, and I'm like, just go watch the thing.
All right. Are there any public comments from the public this evening? All right. Seeing none, I will happily entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. It is 8:58 p.m. We are adjourned. Good night, everyone. See you on the 4th of May.